Good afternoon or early evening, whatever is appropriate in your area. I want to welcome you to Resources Resolution, our sixth session. Pardon me for missing the last one. Anyway, today we're starting a little late because we've had some technological problems, which happens. Things like old man forgot the password, and Facebook has cut us out of several other things for today's broadcast because we don't have time to go research it or set it, etc. So I'm only broadcasting today on YouTube, I believe. So if you're on viewer or Instagram or not Instagram, LinkedIn, I always get those two mixed up, and Twitter, you'll have to unfortunately change to YouTube channel, and that's REVUE. So we will have that, and you can watch it after the fact if you're not able to pull it up during the broadcast. Also, the attendance is sparse to none today because all of a sudden the weather has turned and it is dark outside, strong wind, and waiting for the deluge. All summer we were starved for drought, and we've just started having a return to our occasional or relatively frequent rain, but they're coming in heavy-duty doses, flooding areas and stuff like that. So we're not expecting anyone, so you probably won't see any audience today. We won't swing it around. We hope you all have had a good Labor Day, and we hope that what we're about to present will bring you some interest in education, if nothing else. First thing we always do is we like to, of course, we don't have an audience to welcome out other than hopefully people are watching, and I can't see that right now. But we do want to welcome new members. As you know, besides word of mouth, which of course referrals and stuff like that, which is our best way of getting members, there's an easy way using the software called meetup.com, meetup.com, which I've explained on several situations. It started many years ago after Katrina, before 2000s at least, that allows people anywhere in the world, and it's free if you want, and there's also a paid service that we use, allows you to create a group of free members who share in the interests that you're about to do. And originally it started strictly as a meetup, meaning a physical in-person meetup, and that's when I had a dining club as well as my TV show, so we would have a representative number for those sessions. Now, because of the pandemic, a lot of the in-person meetups in many of the cities and states or nations aren't available anymore. People have never gotten together again. So the national company is actually doing all types of virtual shows. And some of this is whether it's educational fun, they call it virtual cocktails after work. I mean, you make your own cocktail and you watch it in front of your tube or your phone. I guess that's fun. Anyway, so what we wanted to do when we restarted this service was to, first of all, go back to the idea of, since it is a collaboration, we would like the people to be here in person at our events. But also, we don't want to be shutting anyone out if they can't make the meeting or the session, or it's too far for them to come. So that's why we're also doing the live broadcast. And when we do the live broadcast, it's for the most part an educational thing where we will give out some topics and talk about them. As I always say, we're very interested in, if you're watching, for you to communicate, give us feedback, or as the social media platforms call, comments. On any platform that you're watching today, you can write a comment, whether it's a question or anything about the show, and we will get it and try our best to answer it, or just say hello, whatever you're doing, to let us know you're out there. But obviously, if you have a problem with your business, for profit or nonprofit, or need some ideas or whatever, this is what we're here for. Again, our collaboration is scheduled to try and bring together nonprofit and for-profit entities for the greater good of each entity and the whole, as we of course know. So whether it's referrals to the for-profit industry, whether it's assistance in education or formation of nonprofits, that's what we're here for. So some topics will be ongoing because they are continuing as ways of getting, because the revenue, of course, that the for-profits come from whatever merchandise or product or services they offer. But the nonprofits usually don't charge. Their admission, their services are hopefully still free for most services they render. So they need to generate revenue, and their primary source was grants, which we're going to talk about today. So that's good. And a lot of that has reduced over the years as the federal government has dried up a lot of the sources of foundations that would actually give out grants. In addition to that, the spirit of cooperation so that the nonprofits can help the for-profits and vice versa with regard to getting clients as well as helping in any capacity they can. So with the digressing off of the meetup.com, since we started in the middle of July with them, we've been able to we have a total of, not a giant total, but a total now of 12 members. We've got 2 new ones in the last week, and I'm going to welcome them. And we've gotten, for the month of August, we've gotten 5. For the month of July, we've gotten 5, and we've gotten our original 2, including myself, back in July. And the 2 new ones, and we're getting them from all over. So it's not just New Orleans proper, even though we would love that. Our adjacent parish, Jefferson, or Metairie, as the city is called. But our 2 new ones are not from that. Our newest one is a gentleman named Clayton Laborde, which is a very common name in New Orleans. We have I think we even have an attorney firm, so it's a very well-known name. But this gentleman, he joined us August 23rd. He's from San Antonio, Texas. So we're real pleased that we're reaching him, and we're hoping he'll watch and participate. And even though he's at a far distance and can't come in person, we're hoping that whatever business he's in, whether it's for-profit, non-profit, he'll reach out to us, tell us about it. He's welcome to come on, or just do it if he's a little bashful, to let us know so we can talk about it and see what kind of things he's interested in from his professional career, or whether he's just looking to meet people online or whatever. So whatever he's interested in coming to us, we're hoping we're going to be able to fill it. So Clayton Laborde from San Antonio, welcome. And our second one that's come on August 22nd, the day before, is Cindy May. Cindy May is in New Orleans proper, as she states. So we welcome her there. And like I said, we welcome all of our members, and we can't continue to mention everyone, even though they're a small number now. As we grow, it'll be difficult. So we'll always mention the new ones and let you know how we're growing with regard, at least by numbers. So thank you all, and please pass the word about us. All they need to do, meetup.com is another free subscription, just like YouTube. All you have to do is go to meetup, meetup.com, and they're going to ask you, of course, give a name, a username, and that could be just your first name or something else. They will ask for your email. I'm almost sure they do that, and maybe a little other information, but it's very limited information, just so they can establish you as a profile. And so we'll have information if you join us or any of the other groups that meet up office throughout the world. Okay, so we're really glad on that. Now, one of our constant topics is fundraising, not FUN, although some of those can be mixed, as we know, as you've heard on some of our occasions. You can have a social event that is enjoyable, but also serves a cause with regard to raising monies for a specific cause or causes. Okay, the one we want to talk about today, and we've hinted at it a little bit, is that one of the trendy new fundraisers. You know, historically, which we've gone on before, the original fundraiser started basically in a nonprofit, and that was to have an annual social get together with food, beverage, music, and auction items. So the nonprofit would generate funds from the admission prices as well as the donated items that they've been able to solicit from different providers in their area to sell to the attending public. So that was the that still goes on all the time. Again, at the same time, but people are always looking for something new. And so one of the new ones won't go over all the ones they're doing, but the latest one I kind of find enjoyable. And you don't have to be associated with a nonprofit or anything like that. And it's called the Circle of Giving. It's not religious per se, anything like that. No, it's not a cult. What it does is an individual or a group of individuals, really, who know each other for some purpose, uh, have some type of regular get together, like a meetup.com, and not necessarily a meeting. It probably most of these are done like at a social event, whether it's cocktails or dinner. Again, some of those aspects we just talked about that everyone loves to attend. And not only do they charge them for that attendance, but they also, you as part of the group, you're committed to give a donation of the amount that's stipulated. Like here in New Orleans, we have one called the Power of 100. Okay, um, and what that need, and these are ladies, empowered ladies, as you know. That's our latest endeavor. Been very successful over the years in getting ladies out and about, independent women, and certainly can afford to do things with regard to paying back or making charitable donations. So when they do, they meet on a quarterly basis at some restaurant or lounge food. They give a stipulated price that they worked out with the eatery or the bar so that the people will pay for whatever they have to pay for. But they also are committed to bring cash or a check. I don't know if they do it by credit cards in person at the event. And then what happens is, one of two things. One, some of these organizations will either be affiliated with a specific or X number of specific charities, and every event that raises whatever the dollars they raise are given to either one of those charities, or split among them all, etc. There's some people who do this who not in the same group per se, who just are dining buddies, foodies, and they get together, and because of the onslaught of inflation and all the problems, especially with wage differentials in our hospitality careers, they've gone, and what they will do is go to a nice restaurant, however often, and they will give that $100 or whatever the stipulated amount is, and that will be given directly to their server for him or her as a reward for not only for service but also as to supplement their salary and other tips that they would get during the evening or the day. So, like I say, it doesn't have to be. Now, what we want to do is we want to eventually put this in play. And what we'd like to do is, especially as we get our nonprofit members coming on board and joining us, which remember, our membership is free. All of our services are free. The only time we will charge is something like that is if we're going to an event that involves a restaurant or beverages, and you may have to pay or will have to pay for some or all of that cost. But and any donation that we would ask for a charity, not for us, not to sustain we're not looking to build a big organization. We're looking to help each and every one of our members develop among themselves to help them progress in their profession and career. Okay, so we'll be happy to start that up when we get enough nonprofits. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that today, some of the ways we're going to do that. And what we'll do is, as we get a substantive number of nonprofits that are members, what we will do is somewhat of a raffle technique. If we only have a couple of nonprofits, then maybe we will split the proceeds among them. But as we grow, in order to get, we will maybe do a raffle. Each nonprofit's name will be put in the hat, if you want to call it that, or technically we have ways to do it software ways where it'll pick out of those names randomly and fairly a name of one of the nonprofits, and the proceeds for that event or that donation, that giving, will be given to that charity. So it behooves, I hate that, like that word behoove, it behooves these nonprofits to join with us just for that situation, because they might not have to do anything. Of course, we would like them to participate in order to win some money for their organization, which of course hopefully will stimulate membership. So again, that's one of the fundraisers uh, techniques that we will be deploying in regards to several of the others that we've mentioned already, not tonight, but and what, a couple of those others. That what kind can we do? Of course, we're looking for our membership to see what else they want to do. Like we've talked about, not in detail, bingo. Now, a lot of our Mardi Gras crews do bingo, and they just do it for their own event. But we want to do it, obviously, for nonprofits and for like nursing homes to do it free. But there will be some financial as well as awards for each bingo. We'll do it online and go in person if we have someone who's to a nursing home that we're staging it at. But again, that's just future. We're looking for you, our members, to help us decide which fundraisers or the techniques that you all want to participate in, so that way we will be doing things that you are involved in, not just something that we're dictating. Okay. Now, our biggest obstacle right now has been since day one, and that's membership recruitment. We talked recently, just now, a little bit about um, this idea of getting members from meetup.com. We talked about that and how we've been relatively successful with that for the month and a half that we've had it. Okay. We, of course, don't have enough in-person members to be bringing out additional members to us and referring those, but we wish we did. We wish you all out there would refer it. Again, remember, it does not have to be in New Orleans, like our friend who just joined from San Antonio. If you find it's informative to you, and or when we do social events and that's filmed, a broadcast, you'll be able to see that as well, and just be able to get to know the members itself. So we've used meetup.com. Word of mouth, of course, is the best, one of the best. We told you we also have ordered data from our two city parishes, because we use parish instead of county, officials, mainly the licensing and taxing departments, licensing departments, of what we call new businesses, whereby we, nonprofit and for-profit, have developed a listing of such, and we want to solicit them to join us, and not in the point of having to pay money. Unfortunately, it's huge numbers because of the size of our cities, and I just don't have the assistance to do that, nor do I have the wherewithal right now to be paying someone, even though we'll pay volunteers something who volunteer a token fee for doing these projects, whereby they will solicit or either by email for us, like using Constant Comment or one of the emails, chimp email, and or calls to try and drum up interest in our organization. Well, so that's kind of in limbo. Even though we have the tools ready, we just don't have the staffing power to actually use those particular tools to help us out by recruiting. But that doesn't mean we're stopping our effort. We talked about meet and greet events. We want to start social things, set up several coffees. Again, at our coffee shop, and I'm limited to our uptown coffee shop because of my immobility problems. And unfortunately, we haven't developed much there. And we'd like to do these probably at lunches and maybe dinners or after our cocktails. But again, what we want to do is we want to reward our members. So we want to, rather than just go to any restaurant, any coffee shop, we really want to use members' services and products among ourselves, so that they will feel a sense of value for joining us and reward for actually joining and participating. So we'll look at those as we try and get membership gelling. I found another one which is really kind of lost. Thank you. This is unusual. Well, it must be getting bad because it looks like we're having some drop-offs, but we're coming right back, so that's the important thing. So don't panic. If you need to refresh, if you know how to do that on your mute his phone. All right. Sorry, folks. Old man Bob forgot to mute his phone, so sorry you had that call. Anyway, and I can't do it while we're doing this because I'll lose you all. So what was I saying? So there's a new credit union in town. In fact, this is coincidental. Our latest member, who we just mentioned earlier, from San Antonio, that's what's his name, Clayton Laborde. Yeah, Clayton Laborde. They had their own credit union in the city of San Antonio, and it became a federal credit union. It also has changed its name because its mission is something that kind of falls in line with our goal, and that is to be a part of the community, not just for getting revenue, not just for having deposits and stuff, but involving themselves and their resources in the community by lots of things, appearing at events, and we'll talk about this more. But the name of that is called Credit Human. Sounds like credit union, but it's a play on word credit human, meaning human society and community. And they have just moved into the one. It's a federal credit union now, so it's done. I don't know how many states it's in right now. I forgot when they just opened up a branch in New Orleans, very close to me, uptown, just about a month ago. Right? They have two other branches here in the city, but I had never heard of them before. And so I went ahead and met an officer there, and we're hoping to get involved where we could get a representative on our board. We'd love to have a board set up of members to help with not only the task at hand, but also planning for this organization, things we want to do, and how we involve you more. But what they are offering is a promotional, and we want to jump on board. And to get new customers, they're offering a deal. Okay, I say a deal. If you join with them and open a checking account and a savings account, all right? Now, oh, Bob, there it goes. There. Well, first of all, the minimum amount that is required, most of them I've always never been less than $100. For the savings account, it's $5. For the checking account, it's $25, or it's vice versa. I think I'm getting confused. But anyway, one of them is $5, one of them is $25. Now you have to do two things for this promo. We haven't told you what the reward is. But if you do those things, if you put $5 and $25 and open both a checking and a savings account, of course, with the checking, you'll get a debit credit card from the bank, okay? Now, the deal here, and this is the lure that a lot of banks will have, et cetera, whereby you put a lot of deposits in, they will give you a cash reward. Not necessarily you, but they'll put it in your account and you can withdraw it. Here, they give you $200. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's fairly standard on the banks, $200 or $300. And the only other thing you have to do is that you have to use that card and make 10 purchases within a month. Ah, there it is, Bob. Now you sold us up the river. Absolutely not. Because here's the catch. And I don't know if you want to call it gaming the system. We're not trying to encourage that per se. But what we're trying to say is that you can do multiple purchases on the same day at the same place, and there's no minimum amount of purchase. So you could go to a grocery store and buy a pack of gum, double mint gum, or whatever, anything like that, or a newspaper, or like me, a coffee shop. And with that, when you make 10 purchases, within 60 days of you activating your account, they will debit, or I don't know, debit or credit, I get mixed up. They will put $200 in your checking account. Okay? So here's the deal. When I say gaming the system, like I go to the coffee shop every morning. Okay? Now I always get iced coffee, especially in the summer here. Iced, not my preference, but anyway, an iced coffee because it's so damn hot. And I also usually get something to eat, either a bread item or yogurt or fruit or granola, something like that. And what's good about this is that you can split your order. So if it's not jam packed where you're going to be, people are going to get screaming at you, move along. You can ask the barista or the cashier to run two items if you buy two. So if you buy a coffee for a friend of yours or a coffee for yourself and something to eat, you make two purchases on that card. And right away in one visit, you've already got two. So if you do that consistently in 5 visits, you have automatically going to be getting your $200. Now, the thing here is, a friend of mine has already spent almost $200. Didn't understand that you don't have to spend. So everywhere he was going with gas, fill up, $30, $40. He was using the card. But remember, it's a debit credit card, so it can't be a credit card unless you put money in the bank. So you have to figure how much you want to spend to get your $200 reward. Okay, so I would say if you're willing to spend $100, you can get at least 10 cups of barista coffee as opposed to going to one of the drive-ins where you could get maybe 20 or 30. So the key there is you want to use this card 10 times. If nothing else, just those 10 times within a month's period. And when you do, within 2 months, or maybe 2 months, within the 2 months, you will get that $200 reward. So it's a great investment if you wisely use it. Now, like I said, if you foolhardily just charge everything, no matter what the cost is, then you're not really going to be making any money. You're going to be in debt because you're using it as a credit instead of a debit card. Okay, so I encourage you, Credit Human, and there's an online. You can do it online. You can join, and I'm sure there's a way to pay those opening deposits. I just did mine because it's so close, only 7 blocks. I had someone bring me there, and got to meet my officer that we're going to be working with. So I really want to encourage our members, not so much I get anything different out of it, but to take advantage of this, okay? And we would like to show that our group, as we grow, will be a very good part of this credit union, okay, as part of the community. So we can do joint events together. Not only will hopefully be there on the board, but they can help at some point give us donations, which most bankers and credit union people have X number of discretionary funds to generate business. So they can do that for us, as well as we helping them out by bringing new customers to them. So remember that, Credit Human, and it'd probably be credithuman.com, I guess, on the website. And like I said, locally, there's 3 locations if you're in New Orleans. The newest is on Ferret Street, which is right uptown from my house, like 7 blocks. There's one on Oak Street, which is a little further uptown, and there's one downtown. I think it's on Tulane Avenue, but I'm not sure. So do us a favor. Call them up, talk to one of their representatives, do it online if you're those people just, even out of town. Because, you don't have to be a resident of New Orleans to join. But we would love for you to get that promo, but we would love you to join that as locally here to become part of our membership, if you don't mind. Okay, so that's our latest new little crinkle, new little appetite, new little perk to try and get. And we're looking in the future as we grow to be able to use any excess funds to even waive those fees for them. So whoever new member would join, they might not even have to put the $5 or the $25 in or some portion thereof. So these are, again, more allures to have them join our organization and the opportunities that we offer. Okay? Let's see. Okay. All right. So let's go on. So that's Credit Human is our latest endeavor in trying to get members in our organization and coming up with a nice reward for them if they act prudently and expeditiously. Remember, all you have to do is $25 down and $5 in. But I would put more than that because you want to figure out how are you going to buy 10 items in a month and not go over $200. The less you pay of those 10 per the 10 items, the more profit you're going to be making in the end of 2 months with regard to that $200. So you look at that as the investment, you can see how well your return will be on it. Okay. The reason why not only do they want the money in their funds as a typical bank, but they also want the community because again, as part of the human and the community is that they really want youngsters. A lot of our youngsters, they never think about saving money or credit. They know nothing about financial except how to use a credit card and play games, etc. So this can be building, especially in our not only our indigent community, but also our group that's individuals that may not have a lot of expendable income. That the younger folk and their parents can start participating with this and building financial wealth that can help them sustain problem times like we hear in inflation and or future things for retirement or whatever. So it's also community building as well to just bringing in revenue to this organization. Okay, what's next? Okay, as I told you, we came up with some ideas for nonprofits, how to identify nonprofits and also bring them into the fold. And we told you about the new business reports that we got from both of our parishes, but we just haven't had the personnel to actually use those to help get. When I say new business, it is a month to X number of years old. But to get those new business, every month we get a limited part of the report to use to seek out these organizations to try and join us to show what we can, as we build, what we can do for them. Okay. But there's another one. Okay. There's a thing called, and this is a software service that's international on nonprofits only. Now, this doesn't include for-profits. Okay. And I know there's more than one. I don't remember, my old mind doesn't remember. When I was really active in nonprofits right after Katrina for years, this particular one is called Guide Store. GUIDESTAR, guidestar.org is the website. This is, and you can join this, I believe, I'm almost sure for free. I'm sure they have a premium option as usual. But what happens is they gather information up and they collectively put you in the database, all right? And they also find ways for foundations and stuff to give you grants. So it's not just getting your name out there, but it's also finding ways to get revenue. Now, what happens is a good way, like even if you weren't doing it for what I'm going to tell you what we're doing, let's say you just wanted to know, is there a United Way in our city? You could type the name United Way, you put your city name in your state, and it'll tell you all about it, okay? Give you all kind of detail. So if you're looking for a particular one or one that you know the name, you can search by name. But what I've done is I'm searching by city and state, but no name. So I'm leaving it blank. So I'm searching for all, because that's what we're trying to do. We've been trying to identify. I'm amazed. I've been amazed since way back in 2000s, early 2000, when I was early into the nonprofit, that there's no clearinghouse, there's no directory or inventory of the nonprofits by city, and it's here in New Orleans. No, I mean, everyone knows the big names we just mentioned, the United Way, the Red Cross. Everyone knows those, especially if there's a disaster. But the majority of nonprofits in any area is usually independent, or what I call small startups, mom and pop shops, where they're family or businesses, that usually one of the founders has a mission, whether it's educating youth, helping people, and they want to provide a nonprofit, create a nonprofit to help serve their community. And by building a nonprofit, they can receive donations that are tax deductible for the donor and give funds for this nonprofit to use to carry out their mission for their services and products. So that's how it that is a standard. Like I say, in the old days, grants were the only way that majority of nonprofits would get money. Nowadays, it's a combination: fundraising, different alternatives, grants, etc. Besides individual donations. Now, so if I remember correctly, I think it showed me that there are in New Orleans there are like 1,450. Some don't quote me on the exact number. Nonprofits. I had done another Google search using one of these new chat box things, which I'm blown away by. And I believe it told me something like that with over 4,000 nonprofits in New Orleans. I found that super hard to believe. There's 1,400s. It seems to be a more correct number. The problem is, one is you have to register with this organization, GuideStart.org, to get in their membership and or maybe pay a fee. And the fees, if you do have to pay, I'm getting a lot of fires at the drought, even though we're getting rain. The fees are usually based on your membership. So obviously the fees for United Way of Salvation is going to be much higher than the fees for a little mom and pop shop, a startup that just opened in a year. There might be zero fees, but they might be free altogether. So I had to go back and research that. And that wasn't my import right there. My point was to try and get and identify what are the nonprofits here in New Orleans, so that we, once again, we can go out, and now that we'll have the information on these, and reach out to them to see if we can get them interested in our organization, so that they can collab with themselves and or when we get some for-profits. So what I've started doing is actually creating an Excel spreadsheet, if you know what that is. And an Excel spreadsheet you can print out in beautiful fashion, or you can also print out like a word list. And so what I've done is, besides, I just capsulated this identification list that we're doing, and obviously put the name of the organization. I also have capsulated some, extracted just very little information, other than they have two financial pieces of information they give, and that is what is their gross revenue or gross receipt per year, and two, what are their total assets, okay, dollars and cents. So we put those side by side on this chart. And then lastly, they have color-coded categories or ratings from below. I think the lowest one is silver, which is usually for a startup or very little information. Because you're going to see on this that a lot of the startups that we're looking at show zero for revenue and zero for assets. So they won't be in a category like bronze or silver. Gold and platinum are the highest. And there's not only how much money they make, but how much information they provide to this organization and to the public. How transparent. Will they give out total financials for years? Will they do this and the higher they do all this, the more higher the grading and the categorization using that color scheme. Platinum being the highest category. Bronze, I think, is the lowest. Bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So when we get this finished, like I say, because what we're doing is side by side now, and I know you can't see this, but so far, of the first 4 sets of them, that half of a page are the ones that have any assets on loan. And these are some of the big ones, and I have millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? And then yet, during that same first 4 segments, notice we already have a full page, and all of these have 0 assets and 0 receipts. So to me, these are the ones we want to target, because maybe we can help them. I mean, there's no need for us to try and help United Way or anything like that, other than donations when they need it for an event or whatever. But these we can actually physically, hopefully, reach out and see what their organization is and see what their needs are. So I'm going to keep at this every day. Now, if it takes too long, if there are 1,400 and I do 50 a day or something, that's going to take a while. But at some point, then I'm going to start reaching out to these to see what we can get out of it. Hopefully, we'll be getting some good membership out of it. Now, what I remember in this old mine is being taxed way back in 2005 when I was heavy in a nonprofit because we had a similar organization going, just like anything else in a database, whether it's your website. But from the day it starts, it gets old, meaning if you don't update it, then the information is right. So same thing here. You look in directory itself, Yelp or something like this. You might be looking for a review in a restaurant. Many times the restaurant you look at, you're ready, oh, I want to go there. You find out it's already closed because the Yelp, I don't want to pick on them, but whoever the service is, isn't able to keep up with the fresh maintenance of that database. Same thing here. If I remember back then, a lot of the ones I was reaching out to back in the early 2000s were no longer existent, and especially in the categories where they had no monies. Because I guess after a while, if they don't get monies, they have to shut down or move on. And a lot of these are things that people do right out of their homes and use their families, and that's it. Don't really have staff or ways to generate revenue because they just don't have the wherewithal. So those are the ones we're hoping we can help. And by helping them, we're hoping that they will get involved with us to help themselves and others. So again, if you have any interest, GuideStar.org, O-R-G, and you can find out more about them and find out which kind of, you can do the same thing. Hey, I'm in San Antonio. What nonprofits do we have here besides the ones I already know about? Do the same thing. Go in there and search. Don't put a name of an organization, leave that blank, but put the city and the state you're in and hit that, and it will bring them all up. Paragraph by paragraph. You just have to keep scrolling down, and you'll see each one and the information that we presented to you. Okay? All right. So we're hoping it's going to be successful for us in developing some new members and ones that will have that will need assistance. Now, so that's more part of the membership recruitment, which we said, of course, is our major goal and our major obstacle in growing the organization. Now, the next thing, which we hinted at the beginning, is one of the fundraising techniques besides the one we talked about earlier, the power of good. One of the standard nonprofit and core, key, and what everyone calls largest donation items was grants, okay? And this was very prevalent until maybe the 70s. I don't want to castigate a president or something, but there was a big withdrawal of funding, the United States paying for a lot of the nonprofits, foundations, et cetera. A good one I remember was the NPR, the radio, and also the National Arts Organization, where they were getting maybe millions of dollars. I don't remember the exact figure, but hundreds of thousands of dollars, and almost all of that dried up. The budgetary cuts were able to cut all that with a machete knife. And so because of that, it filtered all the way down, meaning that you had very little opportunity back then to get any federal grants, so you had to look to your state, which has their own money, and depending on how well off the state is financially, whether they can use those funds to help give you grants, no matter how good your organization or your mission is, and then also local. But as we know, all the budgets are always stretched to thin, whether it's because they're overstaffed with politicians, not political, but government workers, or they just spend imprudently to use whatever money they can generate from sales tax and from the public. Okay? But what we wanted to tell you about is one of the local organizations, and it's done too, they call the Greater New Orleans Foundation. And all it did in the beginning was make out grants to local organizations, to New Orleans organizations. And what they would do is every year there was a specified time, And you would fill out just like you were going to go make a loan or a business plan or something, or buy a car. You would have to give information, not only just your name and why you want it, but how much you actually feel you need to carry out either your overall capital work or a specific project, like you want to add a building or you want to add a new program. And you will do this in writing and maybe online now in some of them, and submit it during the period that they ask for. They will have a committee that reviews those and decides who gets what. Now, you might ask for $40,000, and they're only giving. They may only have $100,000. So what they do is they might give you smaller grants, like only 2,000, so they can stretch it and try and reward as many of the applicants as possible. Okay. But what I did was I went on to them, and also they've also started something during the pandemic or a little bit before, which is very helpful, and now it's nationwide, and that's online twice a year. It's May and November. There will be a National Giving Day, and they call it, they have cute names, Tuesday, it's on a Tuesday usually, and usually 24 hours a day, that day. They will be online and let you donate to them. And many times we'll get matching funds from wealthy organizations, non-profit, or usually for-profit organizations in the city. So that's even better than not only getting your money, but they're getting, and then then they create it into a fun deal where first 100 every hour gets a certain amount, nothing, So they put all kind of little bells and whistles, perks to make it very successful. To the tune they raised several $1 million. I've forgotten this last one just had per year. And then, of course, they go through a process of handing out the money that's raised too. But now what happens here is you can purposely, and that's what they encourage you to do, specify by either going on the individual charity that you want to donate. Like if you want to make sure your $100 goes directly to one of these organizations, as opposed to being split. Then you can either go onto their organization and use the donate key if they have it on their website, or you can specify when you're doing the online donation. They do it by phone too, if you don't, if you're old fogey like me. And that way, they can, and then by the end of the day, they have all these wonderful parties for them to reward them and show how much money they do. And of course, every year it escalates in the amount of money that's raised and distributed. So, and every city or any urban area has all these other little individual fundraisers, okay? So the Great New Orleans Foundation that started this online one also continues in its role of annually giving out non-online, meaning in-person application. Not that you have to be there in person, but applications that you submit. I got to check how we doing for time. Is that 48 minutes? Is that correct, Glenn? How much time we have?
It's 5:51.
Oh, so only have 9 minutes, so we got to go quick. So I don't know so what I did was, and probably since we're short of time, I might not go with it, but what I did was two things. One, the first thing I did, I reached out to one of the, and of course they haven't called me back. Nobody wants to give out the info. Well, again, I'm going through the process of just identifying nonprofits. And I thought, what better way calling this foundation that I actually knew the lady who did a lot of this for them, who's since retired. But every year they award X above grants in New Orleans. Just give me, if you don't have a list of all the New Orleans nonprofits, just give me a list of the ones that, and you don't have to tell me how much you gave out, that you have. I'm sure they have it online, in their database. What are the names of the nonprofits that you've given out over the history? Because they've been doing it for years. That alone would form a great core base for us to know these organizations. So that coupled with what I'm developing them guide down, whether they're going to do it, whether they're going to even call me back, I'm going to keep pursuing it with them, but who knows whether they'll be, I'm sure they'll be reluctant. Everyone is always so protective. They say everyone says they're transparent until you ask them a question. And then all of a sudden it's a clam up. Okay. But I'm going to give you just a couple of them. Let's see, until I won't go through a bunch of. They had listed several that are, because what they do is they put specific ones where they're doing grants, not just a general grant application we just talked about where you submit it, but specific ones where they've gotten monies, government monies or other sources of money for specific reasons. And you can go ahead and apply for that. And there'll be, again, a specified period and what you have to do. Like one of the ones that really doesn't involve money per se from you or your receipt of, it's from the Parks and Parkways Commission. These are the people who maintain all the streets with regard to the greenery and cutting the grass, planting trees, and specifically for tree planting. You know, as part of conservation now, water conservation, one of the big things they've learned is that when you take down the thing and pave it, move into a concrete a parking lot, as the old song used to be, at the same time, you're doing a disservice. So the water can't get into the ground where it can soak up. So it accumulates, and then what does it cause? Street flooding or worse. So there's a big, again, cyclical thing going back to planting trees, either in your own private yard or also in the public property between not only on the neutral, what we call neutral grounds, medians, whatever you'll call it, the spaces between divided roads, but also between your street and the concrete, if you have a concrete sidewalk, between the curb and the sidewalk, those spaces are also being filled with trees. And they're giving the public the opportunity to get these trees for free. And I believe they plant them for you as well. So they've gotten this huge grant from different sources, and I'm not going to go into it right now. But the the grants are for planting trees, and they can go up to, like, if you're an organization, you really want to do a lot of tree planting, not just individuals, they can give you up to $20,000. Of course, you have to spend it on trees, not on something else that you do. So I'm just giving you one because we're late. But I have a list of how many. I think it's 10, at least 10 of these specialty grants that are published and given out by the Greater New Orleans Foundation. Some of them rely to your neighborhood. Just certain neighborhoods will be given a certain amount of dollars for doing certain things. Okay, so it's interesting. So we can provide this information again. And when we say your neighborhood association, like if you have a neighborhood association that meets together to, whether it's for crime, whether it's for patrolling your area, or just socialism, you can actually get a grant, not only for tree planting, but for a lot of these things, if it matches, if they've established a city or a higher grant for you for these purposes, okay? So we'll go in more detail, excuse me, at our next session. As you know, we meet every other Thursday from 5 to 6. Kind enough to use, lately we've been using the R.E. Smith Library, Public Library of New Orleans, a contemporary one built after, or renovated, I think built from the ground up after Katrina. And they've been kind enough to host us every 2 weeks for free. And until we get enough membership that we can, I think they only allow us to have 20, and we haven't anyway exceeded that in-person thing. So that's why we're hoping some of these other events we're talking about will generate more in-person things, and some of those are willing to come to our in-person session, because there's nothing better than being in an in-person session where someone can raise their hands and voice a complaint or ask a question, just like we've asked if you do it online. You can do the same thing, as long as you use some kind of vulgarity. Our good friend, producer, will not pass that along, but he will certainly advise us of the substance of the comment or question. All right, let's see. I think we're close. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to sign off early. Again, we hope you found some of the information informative. I did today. I'm enjoying doing the research, even though I wish I could do it quicker. But this whole mind just can't, and having the visual problem, can't do as much as he used to do. So, again, if you know any volunteers, we're on Craigslist. You know what that is? That's a service for for-profit, non-profit. We're on there, always looking for people, especially volunteers. And like I said, we will pay them some token project fee, but we can't pay them, and they won't be full-time employees or anything like that. So until next time, thank you. Don't forget, tell your friends to We'd love for you to subscribe. Yeah, all these YouTube things, they ask you to, any online thing, to please hit the bell or whatever, subscribe, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. If you'll do that, that would be great to build up at least our YouTube platform, which carries all of our and maintains all of our programs. Where the others, the ones you might be more comfortable with, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitch, or X, whatever it's called, not Twitter, Twitch, which is wrong. Those the program only stays on for a very limited, usually 24 hours. So do us a favor, join that, but also more importantly, tell your friends about it. Let them join and either come in person or also watch. Join meetup.com, any source to get the word out for you to receive the word. So until next time, thank you again. Hopefully the weather is not as bad in your area as it's been here. Now, still hasn't rained, but we're hoping it does. Until next 2 weeks from today, but that would be today's the 7th, the 21st, I believe. So until Thursday, 21st, we're signing off. Bob Bockelman for Resources Resolution. Thank you for participating.